Yeah, I mean, obviously it was an incredible run. You know, it was a whole lot of fun from our standpoint to work with that group of players. Just a terrific group of players. It was the honor of a lifetime, as I said to you guys before I went over there. Um, it's everything I anticipated it to be, and then some. And obviously, to come back with a gold medal was an incredible thrill. I couldn't be more proud of the players.
Did you know all along you were going to win the gold?
I believed we were because I believe we had a really good team, and the way that group came together, um, we were proud of them.
How would you describe really from the quarterfinals on, it felt like every game. I mean, for you guys, the semis had a little more distance, but a lot of the games were really tight, intense. Like, how would you describe what it was like? Especially because, NHL, you've obviously had a lot of playoff experience, but that's best of seven. These are all kind of win or go home situations once you get into that quarterfinal round. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting environment in the sense that just the way the nature of the tournament is set up, they're one game eliminations, you know. Um, so it's not like you're in a best of seven. And as you guys know, anything can happen in one game. And so, um, you know, I think people maybe underestimate some of the other countries and how good their teams are. There's a lot of good teams that are part of that tournament. So, I mean, every game is like a game seven. That's essentially what the feeling is like, and so it's it's exciting. That's what I think. That's what makes it hard to win, but it's also what makes it as exciting as it is.
The aftermath. I mean, what have these last 2 days been like for you? Did you go to Washington, or have you been home
No,
for a couple days?
no, I just got home yesterday. It was hard getting home because obviously because of the weather here. So they had rerouted the charter plane. We were supposed to fly into New York. We ended up in Miami. We got stuck in Miami. We had to stay overnight. So I didn't get home till yesterday at like 3 o'clock. Um, you know, I had my whole family over there with my grandchildren, so we would, you know, my wife and I were trying to help my kids with their kids, and it's a long story, but
Were you
anyway,
couch surfing with JT?
I was not, I was not, I was not.
Just on those guys, the JT and Vince. We talked about it before, and those guys both talked about wanting to bring the intangibles, and we saw the PK success kind of speaks for itself that you guys had there. But can you just speak a little bit to what they brought to the team and the roles and why they were so important to you to have on that team for those roles, those specific guys?
Sure, you know, I said to you guys, you know, when the roster was announced that, you know, Billy Guerin and his group of managers and the coaching staff, when we had the discussion about, you know, the roster and what it was going to look like and what our objectives were and how we were trying to, you know, build a team that we thought would give us the best chance to win. We talked about building a team in the true sense of the word. And so what I mean by that is that, you know, there needs to be players that bring different things to the table to help you win. It's the it's different than an all-star team. And so, you know, there are guys that are going to produce offense. There are guys that defend really well. There are guys that are, you know, bring mobility and speed. There are other guys that bring grit and physicality. And so, you know, when you look at the roster and how it was built with that in mind, you know, and then as an extension of that, one of the things that we talked a lot about was player deployment. You know, let's go through a real life scenario. You're going to play Canada on such and such a day, and you know there's a minute to go in the game, and you're up by a goal. Who goes over the boards? Who's your first over the boards penalty killers when the faceoff's on the left side? What about the right side? You know what happens if this guy gets hurt? We went through all these different scenarios, and when we talked about building the roster, and we talked about trying to create a team in the true sense of the word. When it's a long-winded answer, but when you it brings me back to JT and Troach. You know, one of the things that we felt strongly about that JT and Troach could bring to this team was intangibles in the sense that these guys are fierce competitors, um, and also they bring a certain skill set that we felt was essential to helping us win. They're elite penalty killers. They're elite face-off guys. They have sound. They have a sound defensive conscience, and they also have shown an ability to produce offense in this league for sure. You know, they're when you looked at our roster, for the most part, virtually everybody on the roster was a point a game guy. You know, so it's not like you're giving up something at the expense of something else. But the you know, JT and Troach, we felt would play a big part in helping our team become a team in the true sense of the word, and how we were going to utilize those guys. They were a huge part of the penalty kill, which went, which, yeah, we didn't give up a goal. You know, the 5-on-3 against Canada in the gold medal game. You know, that scenario that they would, it was, the selection was with those types of scenarios in mind. And I couldn't be more proud of those two guys. Number one, they're Rangers, but they're also great people, and they're proud Americans. And the way they played over there speaks for itself. They were just terrific in the roles that we cast them in.
Obviously, it was an amazing experience with 25 games left here in that. As you come back to this, how do you kind of shift gears back into this one?
Yeah, so we're going to get right back into it. You know, I think you know, our team is in a particular, you know, is at a particular point in time, and what we're going to do is control what we can. You know, that was one of the discussions I had with the group today, and you know, it starts with how we practice, and then it I think the extension is you know, the mindset that we take to every game that we play. And so we're going to try to control everything we can. It starts with our own level of enthusiasm and how we go about things every day. You know, and my hope is that, you know, we want to build an environment here that's competitive, and we want to hold ourselves accountable to a certain standard. You know, and I think if we do that, I think we'll get some results, and I also think we'll have a better feeling about what's going on around here.
I know you've been coaching for a long time, but just through the Olympic experience, is there something new that you learned just about coaching that you feel like you could navigate here?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I'm not sure I have the answer for you right now, but what I'll tell you is that with these types of experiences, you know, a big part of it is the reflection process. You know, and what, you know, there'll be a time when I'll have an opportunity to digest it a little bit more than I have at this point, you know, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of takeaways that will come out of it. You know, what I will tell you is that, you know, that I couldn't be more proud of the group of players that we had. You know, those guys played their hearts out, and all of us were really proud of how we became a team. You know, there was a lot of obviously really talented players, you know, but one of the messages that we gave to them from the start, before the Four Nations tournament, was, you know, talent alone isn't going to win. You know, and that's been my experience at any level of play. You know, you have to become a team in the true sense of the word, and you know, the whole has to be greater than the sum of the parts if you're going to win, and you have to have a commitment to playing on both sides of the puck if you're going to win. You know, you can't score your way to success. You got to be able to keep it out of your net. You have to defend, and that takes collective effort, and it takes attention to detail, and it takes a team. And so we talked a lot about that over the last 2 years leading up to the Olympics. And what I will tell you is to a man, you know, we were so proud of their willingness to embrace that message. And I thought that group became a team, you know, in real short order. And it was, you know, it was impressive to watch, you know. Great players, even better teammates.
How awesome was it for you to have your son along? I mean, you know, it's not,
Yeah.
you don't coach a lot, right? Just Four Nations in this.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it was special. It was special. I won't lie. You know, it was I mean, obviously, when you have the privilege to be part of an Olympic team, that's special in and of itself. But to have the opportunity to share it with my son-in-law, from my family, from a personal standpoint, I mean, it couldn't get any better. You know, literally my whole family was in Milan to share the experience. And so I think it takes on just an added level of, you know, personal fulfillment to have the opportunity to work together with Charlie. He's a great kid, first and foremost. I mean, he's a terrific hockey player, as you guys know, but he's a great person, and it was fun for me to have the opportunity to work with him.
With you know, winning, you were competitors. You have a team. The object is to win. But do you get a sense of what it meant to the country to win the gold medal in this competition?
I think we're still trying to digest that, but as I said to the players before the gold medal game, one of the things I said to them is I said, you guys don't realize the impact that you have on people. You know, I think both the men's team and the women's team were an inspiration to a generation, the next generation of hockey players and beyond. You know, one of the greatest things about sports is it can bring people together. And I think, you know, when you look at both the men's team and the women's team and what they accomplished over there, it's a remarkable achievement. You know, it's hard to win something like that. And so, you know, it's certainly, we're proud of that accomplishment. And I think in a lot of ways, we're still trying to digest the impact that it could potentially have on our country. You know, I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me personally, you know, when we were able to win. And so, and everybody has that same experience that, you know, that we talked to. We were joking about the amount of texts, you know, and they're broaching like thousands. I mean, that's no, you know, I didn't realize that I knew that many people. But people have reached out to me, you know, that I haven't seen in, you know, 30 plus years. Childhood friends, you know, coaches that coached me growing up when I was a kid. Like, it's pretty cool, you know. So when you think about it in those terms, you know, I think these groups, both the men's team and the women's team, I think they have inspired a nation in a lot of ways, and we couldn't be more proud of them.
Last one. Yeah, just one Ranger housekeeping question. Just because while you've been gone, we've been watching Fox, Igor, Sherry, Edstrom, like all these guys have come
Yeah.
back. We've seen the red no contract jerseys lifted from a lot of those guys. It looks like they're ready to play. Or do you expect those guys to be available tomorrow, or maybe a few?
I would anticipate some of them being ready, and I'm working through that right now. I'm trying to, you know, I've been in contact with those guys when I was over there, but I'm working through that right now with Drew and our coaching staff. I would anticipate some of them being available for tomorrow. Not all of them, but some of them.
Of those four that I named, you're saying?
Who were the four you named?
I said Igor, Fox, Sherry, and Edstrom.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm missing them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would anticipate some of them.
And then Mika's just sick. Like
Mika wasn't feeling well. We sent him home.